Last year I took a ride on Northstar, the Twin Cities of Minnesota's only commuter rail line. It was a nice train that ran on time, but then only twice a day in each direction with minimal transit connections to its North Metro stations. It could serve as regional rail, but the powers that be weren't interested in developing it as such. Well, shortly after that video, 2 additional trips were added in each direction, with one trip running as a reverse commute, allowing a trip to Big Lake in the morning and to downtown Minneapolis in the afternoon. So I decided to get up early on my day off and take the 6:40 a.m. departure from Target Field Station to Big Lake. Now based in the West Metro suburb of Plymouth, I utilize the County 73 Park and Ride located in Minnetonka on Interstate 394. It's an average facility that is served by 2 West Metro routes, of which the 6:45 Wayzata to downtown limited stop bus would take us into downtown. It's nothing to write home about, but the Park and Ride serves me well for this day trip without a need for overnight parking, which isn't allowed at West Metro commuter lots. The 645 traces a route along the old US 12 corridor through Minnetonka, Plymouth, Golden Valley, and St. Louis Park. There's only hourly service, but it works for getting errands done without the need to struggle around the suburban highways as they become increasingly congested approaching downtown Minneapolis.
Wayzata Boulevard.
The southwest extension of the Green Line LRT continues its modest progress toward a projected 2027 opening, which may improve route frequency along this corridor. Maybe. The 645 enters downtown and runs on the Marquette Avenue Bus Boulevard. We alight after 5th Street and make way to the Nicollet Mall LRT station to opportunistically catch a Blue Line train to Target Field Station. Metro Transit has increased staff and security presence at stations downtown and aboard trains, but time will tell if it has any effect on fare evasion, people holding open train doors, and the checkered reputation of the Metro system as an unsafe system over the past decade. Target Field Station, Platform 1 is where all northbound LRT passengers make their way into the North Loop neighborhood of Minneapolis. The stadium is polished for tonight's game, though no additional special Northstar train service is planned following its late-night conclusion. We make our way into the upper waiting area for the Northstar station. The expanded schedule still posted on each door. Riders using the Metro Transit Go-To card have separate readers marked to deduct a fare appropriate for each station on the Northstar line. But I use the Token Transit phone app, so we make our way right down the escalator to the entrenched commuter rail platform below. The train set for the reverse commute trip is already dwelling at the platform, having earlier arrived as the first inbound trip of the day. The platform is in great shape, continuing to show signs of minimal use among commuters and free of the litter, graffiti, and loitering common on LRT platforms in the Twin Cities. The Bombardier bi-level coaches look fresh, and our locomotive is a Motive Power MP36PH-3C, a common choice of commuter rail power across the country. Stepping aboard, the coaches look great. There's minimal signs of wear and tear, and many of the signage that remains is that of Metro Transit's past decade of advertising campaigns. Seating is offered in pairs of seats facing the row ahead, with airline-style pairs limited to the ends of each car. Decent-sized tables are offered at alternating rows, with standard American power outlets at each row. The restrooms remain stellar looking. There's little evidence that this one was used at all today. It's well stocked with the trash bin oddly near the floor and a polished sink operating very well. I guess if you want the best commuter toilets in America, you needn't look further than one of the least utilized commuter lines in America. At the platform, I noticed a couple other passengers in the other coaches, but it looks like I'm going to have this entire coach to myself for at least the initial portion of the southbound trip to Big Lake. We depart exactly on time from Target Field, proceeding between the BNSF line that was once the Great Northern and the Union Pacific line that was once the Minneapolis and St. Louis Railway. Crossing the Mississippi River, we leave Nicollet Island and enter northeast Minneapolis, where I lived over 15 years ago. We enter onto the former Great Northern East Side Line, joining the former Northern Pacific Main Line. Traveling through the BNSF yard, we're entering the Northern Transcontinental Route, which will go all the way to the West Coast, serving as a major shipping route and source of jobs for those living in the isolated towns and cities along its right-of-way. Metro Transit owns the train sets for the Northstar, which are operated by BNSF conductors and engineers. Were it not for the industrial sites along this part of the line, additional Northstar stations might be a practical source of new ridership. Were it also, of course, not for the dismally low number of daily Northstar departures. We make our first outbound stop at Fridley Station. If Northstar had more trips per day in each direction, I could alight here and connect to bus routes already established nearby to get to my work site in Coon Rapids. However, as it stands with my variable work schedule, only a few occasions per month exist for me to make the Northstar part of my commute, though I suspect I will someday give it a shot. Fridley Station has ample parking as well. Mostly unutilized today, as it is most days outside of special service offered on Northstar for sporting events and concerts downtown. The inclusion of such extra service has been a good sign of Metro Transit's intentions to better utilize its trains along the line, but the continued nature of its bus system development being concentrated primarily within the urban core hinders people's ability to connect with Northstar trains. Approaching Coon Rapids Riverdale Station, we pass the greatly underutilized Foley Avenue Park and Ride, which had initially been planned to be another station on the Northstar line. We'll encounter that structure on a future inbound ride, which I recorded on today's returning afternoon trip. With substantial suburban, commercial, and residential development all around us, Coon Rapids is a good example of what Metro Transit hasn't worked enough outreach to achieve outside the cities. While a few bus routes run limited hourly service to, from, and around the station, the Northstar's early morning schedule keeps folks living further out on the line from making convenient heavy passenger rail service an option to get out, run errands, or to do much of anything other than go into the downtown core of the Twin Cities. The Middle American divisional mindset that there exists a class of suburban citizens that will never take public transit is the primary obstacle to the development of regional rail in the Twin Cities. Metro Transit is putting a lot of time and money into developing BRT and LRT corridors that barely extend further than their existing system of ridership. The often adversarial relationship the Metropolitan Council takes in its expectations for planning transit routes into the suburbs keeps relations with county-level policymakers stagnant. It's the often touted characterization of suburban residents not wanting a transit system to, quote, bring in trouble from the cities, combined with the time savings of driving alone at one's convenience that has perpetually pushed public transit out of the realm of consideration in Minnesota and many other metro areas between the North American coasts. We move beyond Anoka Station, where our first Northstar video began. I'm hopeful that development around Northstar stations and the corridor in general is a good sign that potential ridership is growing, even if only on the outdated premise of park and rides serving people living along the line. Part about Northstar is it's any train you can take in the Twin Cities, and it smells like a passenger train inside. Not cigarettes like the light rail. I like that. The most common form of public transit in these third-ring suburbs is the dial-a-ride jitney bus services that are hardly promoted among the commuting public, more often utilized for paratransit and the elderly to go about their daily business. With microtransit services beginning to get some footing in North Minneapolis, it would appear Minnesota is nurturing the early forms of ride-sharing based transit that could someday be more widely promoted as an alternative to driving for one's daily commutes. But with traffic congestion remaining along the corridor and the Northstar's timetable being meager, these are just traces of possibilities that might help along a future regional transit corridor, given the unlikely premise that Metro Transit and outstate county commissioners can work together to envision a future transportation system with more modes involved than just the personal vehicle, and discuss the ingenuity of such with a skeptical public through outreach and goodwill within all stages of the game. Beyond Elk River, we are now solidly out of town, the landscape now opening up to rolling fields. We slow to allow Amtrak's Empire Builder to pass. It's on time and headed for a St. Paul station stop on its way to Chicago. In the coming weeks, I'll be taking Amtrak's new Borealis service in business class to Chicago and back over the Memorial Day weekend. I hope you'll subscribe to see my reactions to my first trip in a non-bi-level passenger train car on the old Milwaukee Road to Chicago, the transit-loving city that my heart calls home. Pulling into Big Lake Station, we pass the Northstar maintenance facility and get a look at the modestly populated car park that surrounds the station at the city's edge. Here we're continuing our journey, following the would-be next part of Northstar rail service on the Northstar Link, the coach bus service to St. Cloud. Getting off the train, about a dozen people are around the station. Some have just taken our train here, and others appear to be using the station as a point to catch the Link bus to St. Cloud. It would appear that as a fringe regional option, this part of Northstar is barely alive and kicking in its usefulness. The approaching coach bus offers a bike rack, and for the cost of $2, it will run the roughly half-hour-long route up US Highway 10, stopping at the town of Becker, before making 3 stops within St. Cloud, the next major metro area northwest of the Twin Cities. The coach bus is well appointed. It has leather-esque seats similar to Greyhound or Flixbus, with standard US and USB power points at every seat pair. The typical coach bus features apply: limited overhead luggage storage inside, and larger bags able to go underneath the bus. It's a nice air-conditioned ride for us as we leave in tandem with the inbound Northstar train. Heading back onto US Highway 10, we get up to highway speed, with the railroad we could someday be taking this way on our left. Though it isn't a lacking sort of bus service option, it's a shame that lawmakers at the state and county levels couldn't operate an effective negotiation decades prior. I'm of the mindset that with outreach and diplomacy taking the lead, new ideas for avoiding highway congestion, such as what we'll see on a later return trip video, are possible using public transit, even in places unserved by such systems. As we meander up into central Minnesota's lush lake country landscapes, it's worth considering future expansion of regional transit systems, so more folks can spend their time and money in these communities away from their homes. Not putting their cars onto highways, even if only for a handful of trips per year, as an option could benefit a lot of people. From the cities that could see increased tax revenues from travelers, to local businesses being able to expand and increase the notoriety of their towns as a part of a place that can be traversed by any number of means of transport, it's in everyone's best interest to overcome the mindsets of the past, and in some cases the present, when planning future transportation networks. Our bus pulls into St. Cloud, first via the park and ride near the regional airport, then into downtown, barely bypassing the Amtrak station served by the Empire Builder hours before. Our destination is St. Cloud's Metro bus station in the heart of downtown. I'm going by bus around the city in a future video before reversing this reverse commute back to the Twin Cities this afternoon. So that's all I've got for now. Be on the lookout for full ride videos in both directions in the future, featuring a lot of unseen sights on a trip hardly taken by most people that live around this route. Please like, share, and subscribe for all my future meanderings too. And thanks for watching today. I had a good time on Northstar. I had a good time in St. Cloud. I wish they had more trips up there. Still the same story. Gotta have more trips. Gotta have more transit. Make it regional. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.